Hello folks, today I want to talk about our relationship to anger because many of us have been conditioned that anger is bad and wrong, and when we've tried to express it we've been punished and we've learned to hold it in. And it's a really beautiful part of ourselves that when we get in touch with it, when we embody it, it's our life force, it's the vitality to engage with the world, it's a strength to be ourselves, set our boundaries. But there are many ways that we try to deal with our anger because it doesn't feel safe. We don't know how. We've never been shown that we deal with it in ways that just make it worse. And I want to take a playful look at these sort of 5 terrible ways we deal with anger. And the point of this is not to suggest anyone is doing anything wrong or to shame. It's just to almost take a light-hearted look at some of these obviously sort of avoidant tactics our nervous system tries to use to keep us safe. So we can just notice them, right? You don't need to change them. Just notice where you notice them in yourself and go, okay, this is an opportunity where I can actually connect to my anger more and I will feel better, more like myself. So let's get into it. The first one is to pretend. The first terrible way of dealing with anger is to pretend that we're not angry at all. So just deny it straight up, even if you're obviously angry. We often just go, I'm not angry. It's fine. It's absolutely fine. Don't worry. No, it's all fine. I'm not angry. I will take on all that work. It's not a problem. Your child's just vomited on my new rug. No, of course. They didn't mean it. They're doing their best. Everyone's doing their best. It's this kind of thing. And I'm not suggesting you do get angry at the child. I'm never suggesting we act out our anger. That's one on the list. It's coming in a bit. But just to acknowledge, if we are angry, we'll feel better if we just go, actually, the child vomited in my rug. I'm actually really frustrated about that. Do you know what? That's really it. All this work I've just had to take on, that's incredibly frustrating. Another one we kind of do in the pretend you're not angry is the identity. Like, I'm just not an angry person. I just don't want to be that person. And again, that sounds nice and it sounds very reasonable, but the best way to not be an angry person is actually to fully allow our anger. Because if we're not an angry person, we repress all our anger, and we do all have anger. It's a human emotion. It's a human thing, just like teeth and hair. Then it actually comes out sideways in gnarly other ways, of which we will see some in this list. So people who aren't angry are the ones most liable to suddenly explode or to come out sideways. The second terrible way is to go very quiet or go silent, to sort of be silent, to kind of try and radiate our resentment outwards in the hope that, if I just stay here and eventually they will somehow, the other people will, the universe and God himself will come and apologize to me for how badly I've been wronged and everything will work out. And it's understandable. Again, it feels terrifying to somehow really express or directly say, I don't like what you did. I totally get that. But it's just, it tends to, if there's any disconnect between two people, argument, rupture in relationship, bringing a bit of honesty to it about how we're feeling almost always helps. And the silent treatment just creates a bigger gap. And it's very painful for the other person actually as well, because they're not always sure what's going on. If you ever, my mum used to sort of do that. She'd be annoyed. She'd just give the silent treatment, and I would just sort of stand there confused and frozen, not really knowing what to do. And it really hurts, and you're not entirely sure what's going on. And I can even feel a bit of like tenderness coming up in my chest just talking about that. Right, or just if someone pretends that the classic almost meme of in a relationship, the guy's like, tell me what's wrong, and the woman's like, I'm fine, and she's not, and it just perpetuates this cycle. So that's understandable, but it's not as helpful as acknowledging the anger or what's not right. The third one is passive aggression. So this is when, again, similarly, you don't say that you're angry directly or communicate what's going on for you, that your displeasure or dislike of what's happening, but it tends to come out sideways in all the things that you do. So you might like kind of withhold things from the other person that you're angry with. So, they might want some of your time. They also, can you meet up? We can meet up and hang out, and you just keep on saying no. Or they want to borrow some money, and you try and punish them by withholding things. You say no. They wanted you to do something that you previously agreed to some favor to do them, and you say, oh, you can't do it anymore. Maybe you said you might do something poorly as well, is another way this shows up. You said you do the dishes, so you do them, but you kind of half-ass them as a kind of a protest against the way that you've been treated, but without directly addressing the way that you've been treated. Or kind of stomping, slamming doors, this kind of thing. It's like this sort of indirect communication. Sarcasm is another classic way of expressing that we don't like something without actually expressing we don't like something. So if someone's late, you might be, oh, nice of you to show up, finally. And it's tricky because, again, the other person doesn't quite know how to deal with it, because it's kind of like it's so designed so they can't really respond to it clearly. Nice of you to finally show up. All right, let's get going. And there's no way for them to sort of be like address it. And it tends to just feel really horrible on all sides. Like being passive aggressive feels horrible on the inside, actually doing it that way. But it feels like it's our only recourse sometimes. But it's not, and we'll get to that at the end. The fourth terrible way is sort of projecting, judging, demonizing, which is broadly like you turn other people into the bad guy. So like my sister was a genius at this. When growing up, I remember this. Like she would be getting really mad, and then my dad would try and intervene, and then eventually he would be apologizing because she would get really angry at him for hurting her, and sort of just twist the whole thing around. And he didn't know what to do. He would always get like twisted into knots by her. And other people do this too. It's like it comes out in other ways of like being highly critical of others. We have this anger within ourselves. Often it can be actually directed at ourselves in some way, but that it's a difficult emotion to deal with. So we project it outwards, we push it outwards, and we see it. We just put it onto everyone else, and we judge other people really, really harshly. Which again, it feels horrible when we're doing that on the inside. It's like we have all this anger, and it's just like it's kind of festering in us, and we're just beaming it out into the world, and it feels awful. And what's really going on is it's actually just the anger within us, and then often there's stuff below that as well. There can be, it's not just anger; it can be connected to shame. Very often as well, there's a deeper shame wound that's really vulnerable, and so anger comes in to protect us. That anger feels too. We can't express it directly or own it directly, feel it directly, so we have to push it, project it outwards. And yeah, that's, again, understandable, tends to be a very, very direct route to suffering, if that's how it is, if that's what we're doing. The fifth way is, you've been noticing they've been getting slightly more outward. They started inwards and they're getting more outwards. This is just to explode or blow up, explode with rage. This is people who fly off the handle. And ironically, this is linked to repressed anger. It's like there's we're holding so much anger. It feels like these people are really, they have no problem expressing their anger or feeling their anger, but they do, because there's a real skill and art to actually really holding anger and really feeling it. And when we repress it, it's almost like it builds within us, like a volcano. And there's all this anger building like lava. And then suddenly one little trigger can come in, and suddenly the defenses are not weak enough to hold it in, because the anger is continuously being held in by like tension and defenses. And then suddenly someone does something and the volcano explodes. And it's actually because all that anger's been building up and hasn't been dealt with. And when it explodes, it's not being met, it's not being integrated, it's a spewing out everywhere. It's another way we actually don't meet the anger or acknowledge it. So if you're one of these people who gets really angry and it's sort of, that temper, it spews everywhere, that's fine, but just know know that you're not actually feeling your anger. And when you're expressing, if you're yelling or venting or ranting, this isn't an expression of anger. This is a way to try to cope with anger. The intensity is too much. And so in this big release, physically, verbally, we're trying to relieve some of the tension, relieve some of the pressure, not to actually really meet the anger. And why does this matter? I hinted at this at the beginning, but all of what I just described involves, suppressing the anger, holding it in, or having it leak out or explode out in various ways. And they all have the same effect, that we don't really integrate the anger. We're still disconnected from it, and it just harms us and others in various ways. It's really unpleasant to take these ways of meeting anger, whether it's passive aggression or going silent or exploding with rage. Like that, it's really painful. Instead, we need the middle way. Rather than suppressing or acting out, there is the middle way where we learn to embody the emotion of anger. And I've got a big video set. I've got like the ultimate guide to repressed anger, parts 1 and 2 on my channel. You can check out. But in a nutshell, it means that we acknowledge the anger. We actually acknowledge, okay, I'm angry. This is the feeling I'm having. And it's just, for a moment, it's just between you and yourself, right? There's actions you might have to take later on, but actually if you process the anger, those actions will be more clear and more effective. We act very poorly when the anger is loose, when it's repressed or acted out. That's when we start acting in gnarly ways that cause more harm. So we acknowledge it. You can notice where you feel it in the body. It might be the belly, it might be the chest. And just to give you one effective technique, you might want to put a hand where you feel that anger and see if you can expand it a little, allow it to expand a little bit where you feel it, and just vocalizing it. So give it an expression in real simple sound. So it's like the goal is to just get the energy of anger flowing in your body. That's where you process it when it's expanded. You're feeling it in your body. Maybe you press your hands together a little bit to get some of that anger into the arms. You can stamp your feet a bit to get the anger into the legs. As you do that, then just staying with it, and it might come in waves. And this is what it means to embody anger, when it's in your body and you're just being with it. You're maybe letting a few sounds come out, and you're not going anywhere, just meeting it. And you'll know that you're doing it right, but either because it turns into a more vulnerable emotion that's underneath it. You might, after a minute or two, you might start feeling sad or hurt or vulnerable, helpless. That's the vulnerability underneath. Or you might notice that you start feeling a bit better, a bit lighter, through allowing it to be felt and expressed and move a little bit. Another good one is pressing your hands against the wall. That's one of my favorites. But it's about expanding that anger into the body and just meeting it, being with it. I do help people with this work. So you can check out my links below. I do, one-on-one sessions for people to help them process their emotions, including anger, which is a bit of a specialism of mine. And is there anything else that I need to add to this video? Yeah, I've noticed in myself when I do this, I've done a lot of anger work. It was driving a lot of addictive behaviors for me, skin issues, huge amounts of repressed anger. And just as we work through these layers of anger, just the body starts to relax, the mind starts to relax. It's like holding in all this anger just generates a huge amount of tension in the body and the mind, huge amounts of coping mechanisms with other people, having to be silent or quiet or passive aggressive or whatever it is. And it's not needed. So I hope this helps, and I'll see you later.